Hello, Chetama. Welcome to SE Company. We are glad that you are interested in applying for this position. We are recruiting a candidate for our SE company because we are now working on producing film and we want to improve the production quality in our SE region. Next, we would like to ask you some questions on how you view the importance of Southeast Asian horror film. Are you ready?
Yes.
Hello, Sutima. My name is Neil. I'm a film producer and writer, and thank you for coming today. I would like to ask you a question. What do people think when they hear about Khmer Rouge, and why do they discuss themselves as a nationalism?
Well, when we hear about the word of Khmer Rouge, people who are Cambodian or people who knows about this history would think of it as an armed conflict, a regime that destroyed the lives of 1.7 million people, a regime that filled with genocide and violence, and a regime that massively destroyed the development and human rights of Cambodian citizens. Khmer Rouge power control over the regime during the period of 5 years has left everyone with sorrow, fear, and grief. However, Pol Pot and his followers have a different perspective of their intentions toward their power control. Pol Pot and his follower believes that their intentions toward the power control are to protect the nation from Cambodians invader, which is the Vietnamese, or what we call a Yuan invader. Pol Pot even claimed that their crime was partly disguised behind the banner of their extreme love for the nation, which is nationalism. They want to create a movement for youths and their followers as a movement to protect Cambodia from the risk of being invaded by Vietnam. As we can see in the film First They Killed My Father, Luong saw everyone put down what they are carrying and even money, as Angkar told. Angkar proudly announced that they reject everything that was part of the imperialist and feudalist society. You don't need money. In the new Cambodia, there will be no banking, no trading, and no private property. No rich, no poor, no class. We are all the same now. The Khmer Rouge said they were creating a utopian nation where everyone could be equal. They restarted the nation by resettling everyone and changing everything back to zero, which was the same as Luong viewed in the film First They Killed My Father. However, this drastic reality of this dramatic regime is that the entire population was dying of starvation, disease, and hopelessness, but the Khmer Rouge was creating a new upper class.
Okay, nice to meet you, Chitima. So my question is, do you think post-coloniality is a big issue in Southeast Asia?
Well, in my opinion, I think that the post-coloniality power dominance during that span of time has affected our honorific title and identity of Southeast Asian tremendously and indescribably. The West colonization has political dominance in most parts of the globe that legitimizes ideologies, politics, cultures, military, and power. They have a very specific and persistent legacy, which is to take control over the world. That was a very huge factor that contributed to the questions that are commonly asked in the present days. Why Southeast Asian cultures and traditions are so unique and talented. However, our traditions were not familiarized or recognized globally to other parts of the world. And this is also the reason we are working very hard to identify our cultures and values internationally so that our name and value will be recognized, appreciated for the intrinsic value that we truly reflect and shape our people's life and what affects our value. We want to prove to everyone that Southeast Asian is a strong community and our beliefs, traditions, and infrastructures that has been passed down from our ancestors decades after decades is truly unique and magnificent, and nobody should take that for granted.
Hello, Chutima. I have a question. How does the film First They Killed My Father constitute the theme of armed conflict?
Well, I think that the First They Killed My Father film is one of the most popular movies in Cambodia and worldwide that was directed by an actress and director, Angelina Jolie. I believe that the film contributed heavily to armed conflict because the film depicts the most agonizing and unforgettable events of Cambodia, which is the era of Khmer Rouge regime. This has strongly to do with the political instabilities in Cambodia. The movie reflects deeply and drastically on how the situation on April 17, 1975 has transitioned Cambodia into the worst political regime revolution and pitfall ever in history. Many years before that happened, there were also an event of armed conflict too. Ronald took over the country by a coup d'etat, destroying King Norodom Sihanouk's power. And seeing that the coup was possible, Pol Pot formed an alliance with King Norodom Sihanouk and started building immense defense, ally, and power throughout the provinces. Ronald could only survive then because with the help of the US government. As we can see in that very first scene in the movie, as soon as the US left Cambodia, Pol Pot immediately took control over the city and shut down Phnom Penh. After that day, there were only violence, war, and killing fields everywhere in Cambodia.
Hello again, Thomas. The next question is, of the horror movies, among all of the horror movies we have studied so far about Southeast Asia, which movie do you like the most and why?
Well, among all of the horror films we have covered so far, the movie that I like the most is Ghost of Minot. I think Ghost of Minot story is a truly legendary horror film in Southeast Asia. The movie is very popular and because it is based on true story of an unbreakable lover between Nat and Mat. There were many important elements and components of the film that represents the identity of Asian religions, culture, and traditions. As we can see in that era, the people that are very religious and superstitious, and they also believe in the dark spirit and witchcraft. They were and still are very common and momentous until these days, including one of the most well-known scenes in Ghost of Minot is when she stretched her long arm to grab a lemon for her husband. In a religion where we believe in Buddhism, after Mark realized that his wife is a ghost, he suddenly rushed to the pagoda to ask monks to hold ceremonies and perform rituals so that his wife can go to heaven.
Hello, and the next question is, what can we learn about another culture through the use of ghosts in horror movies?
Well, in this context, Ghost of Minot is a great example and representation of multiculturalism. In Cambodia, the implementation of ghosts into horror movies are very conventional and frequent. And since Cambodia and Thailand population are devoted predominantly to the region of Theravada Buddhists, we both are familiar with religious practices and have something in common. And as watching the movie, I have discovered that we almost resemble each other with what we believe in and what we exercise. As we know, religions are believed to be one of the most powerful and influential factors that shape the culture, traditions, what we believe in, and diversify our values. Especially in Buddhism, which is one of the largest religions in the world, Buddhists believe that our human lives are one of suffering and what goes around comes around. This is why Buddha apprises people to do good deeds as much as they can so that they will receive good things back in return for their life. For instance, like going to pagoda to receive food and good health, prosperity, or even meditation from monks. This will help us feel blessed and ease our mind, lift up our soul, and protect us from any bad or evil spirits. However, if you do bad things, your actions will eventually punish you, as we can see in the film of Ghost of Minot. In the scene where those men have bad intentions to take away Nat's baby in her dead ground for the sake of themselves, those men were immediately punished for their action. Minot was very mad and came back for revenge and hunt the entire town villa. So it is very important for us to respect what we believe in and do not contempt to disregard other people for your own benefits.
Hello, Chidima. Nice to meet you. I would like to ask, do you think Asian horror are scary? In your opinion, what make Asian horror more terrifying comparing to other regions?
Well, of course, horror films are scary. However, putting into that perspective, I also think that Asian horror films are scarier and depicts a supernatural compared to the Western horror genre. Asian horror usually depicts supernatural elements of curses and vengeful ghosts or hunting that sharpen its craft throughout years of efforts. And one of the most iconic interpretations into the ghost film in Southeast Asia is commonly seen is the idea of karma. Since around 80% to 90% of the population in Southeast Asian countries are Buddhist believer, it is no surprise that the influence of tradition is applied into those films. The idea of karma are mainly the actions that are driven by intentions, which eventually lead to future consequences. There were many components of religion that were implemented into the film, giving it a more realistic sense of belief and fear to the audience. Because most of the people believe that ghosts are scary and they actually exist. So this is actually a way of how directors can make the audience relate and give them the thrilling adrenaline rush during watching the movie.
Okay. My next question is, how does the horror movie reflect Southeast Asian culture and society?
Well, horror film and movies reflect Southeast Asian culture and society in a way like no others. Culture contributed massively to the overall growth of human well-beings and the country prosperity. The purpose of culture in this society helps to accelerate the economic growth, social progress, and cultural development. Culture in society helps to promote a unique identity, promote diversity, and bring peace and stability into the community. As for this, the impact of horror movie reflects heavily on Southeast Asian culture and society. Film is like a message to spread awareness about a particular culture and value, encouraging the audience with preservation of diverse value and gaining mutual understanding of spiritual and religious practices and the foundation of cultural traditions.
So, Chitima, what is your opinion about Uncle Boomy horror films?
Well, I think that Uncle Boomy is a representation of ghosts that's meant to characterize and illustrate a belief of culture in many different ways. And I find that very fascinating as a fan of the film myself. I feel that director Apichatpong Virasittikul has that quality of work that cannot be mistaken. Because normally when we think about horror or ghost movie, we would think it's scary, frightening, and shocking to watch, we feel scared. Even in real life, when we see a ghost, we would freak out or panic. However, as I was watching the movie, I did not feel like I'm scared or afraid of the ghost at all, which I find that very interesting and at the same time mysterious. I think maybe the director wants to show us that the ghost story is not always scary, and he also implied to us that humans can also live and communicate with ghosts without being scared. Those with animals can also come and live with humans as well.
Oh, thanks so much for your amazing answer. You have been incredible from the beginning to the end. Unfortunately, we have to wrap this up right now, unless you have any question for us.
Nope, not good.
Okay, I guess that's it then. Thank you so much for coming to this interview, and all the best of luck.
Thank you.
Goodbye.